The NBA offseason is officially here, which means it's time for trade talks, free agency, who's going to go where. Even at the time of recording, the NBA draft happens in 20 minutes. I'm going to try to get this done so I can watch the draft. But I want to talk about two trades that happened. I want to say the Kevin Durant trade happened on day one, game 7 of the NBA Finals. But at first, I want to talk about the Desmond Bane trade. I had two, at the time, very different reactions to both of these trades. I was super excited for the Desmond Bane trade, saw the vision immediately. I thought it was a perfect trade for the, well, maybe not perfect, but a great trade for the Orlando Magic. The Kevin Durant trade took a little bit longer to believe in, I guess I'll say. I hate that I'm about to say this phrase, and my boy said all the time, and I'm like, what does this even mean? But I wasn't moved initially by the Kevin Durant trade, but now, after giving it some time, thinking it over for the last couple of days, I really do like the trade, and I think it was a great idea by the Rockets. So let's talk about Desmond Bane first. Just so we're all on the same page, let's go over exactly what the trade was. The Orlando Magic received Desmond Bane, and the Memphis Grizzlies received Cole Anthony, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a first-round pick in this draft, the 16th pick in the 2025 draft, a first-round draft pick in 2026 with swap rights from either Phoenix from either Phoenix or Washington, a first-round draft pick in 2028, and then swap rights to a first-round pick in 2029, top 2 protected, and a first-round draft pick in 2030. So if not mistaken, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 first-round picks in a swap. Wow. And across most NBA fandom, especially NBA Twitter, the initial reaction was, wow, this is a crazy overpay for Desmond Bane. And I get why a lot of people say that. 4 first-round picks, 2 players, a pick swap. It does feel like a lot for just Desmond Bane, and I'll put that in quote tweets. But me and my boys have this saying that people spend money on what they want to spend money on. We always say this when a guy might say that he bought something, and be like, you bought that for how much? Hey, people spend money on what they want to spend money on. Meaning, if it's something you really, really want, if it means something to you, if you think it's important to you, matters to you, or if you really just want it, you might be willing to spend a little extra on it just because it means something to you. And I think in this case, the Orlando Magic saw a need on their team, and they feel like, and I agree, that Desmond Bane can fit that need on their team, and they were willing to pay a little bit of extra for it, especially in this case, because to me, I didn't see any reports that Memphis was looking to break up Desmond Bane, Ja Morant, and Jaren Jackson Jr. I think they might have not have been as successful as they wanted it to be, especially these past about 2 seasons. But it's also due to some injuries, and also Ja just being off the court for some off the court reasons. Healthy, this team was just, the last time the Memphis Grizzlies were healthy, they had 2 back-to-back 51 seasons as a young up-and-coming team. And so I thought they could still build on that. So if you're going to come to them and say, hey, we want one of the most important pieces in your team, you got to come with a good offer. You got to come with an offer they can't refuse. And to me, Orlando did just that. Quickly talking about Memphis, honestly, most of my notes are about the Magic because I'm more excited about the Magic side of this. I think Memphis just saw an opportunity to, 1, get a ton of draft picks, and 2, KCP and Cole Anthony will still, I think, fit into their system. KCP did not have the year that Orlando wanted him to have in terms of his shooting and being able to stretch the floor for the Magic. Hopefully he can figure that out and become the shooter he was once again with the Nuggets. We'll have to wait and see. And then Cole Anthony, I think he could either play alongside Ja or be a great backup for them, or honestly be another piece that's moved somewhere else. Again, the Memphis Grizzlies are also a team going into playoffs or a ton of turmoil, being a team that just fired their head coach days before the playoffs started. So before I give a really deep analysis on what Memphis could be, I want to give them the rest of this offseason to see if they make any more moves with these new draft picks they acquired, or if they just decide to completely retool and decide to go a full rebuild, or do they decide to make a couple of small changes and go back into the season and see what Ja can do. But back to the Magic, because honestly, that's the piece of this trade that I'm the most excited about. Last season, the Magic finished 41-41, but keep in mind, Paolo only played 46 games and Franz only played 50 games in this regular season. And a couple of things I thought was really interesting, especially before both of these guys got injured. Paolo got injured, I want to say the 6th game of the season. But in the 4th game of the season, he had a 50-point game against the Pacers. Franz was also on a stretch right before his injury. And the last 14 games before he was injured in early December, he scored 30 over 38 times. And in 2 more of those games, he had 29. The team was 11-3 in his last 14 game stretch where he was just going absolutely ballistic. And then to finish out the season, when both Franz and Paolo were back, the Orlando Magic were 28-21. My point here is when both of them were playing, they were rolling. And then after they came back from injury, I think it still took a little bit of time for them to revamp. They didn't look like themselves until closer to the end of the regular season and then in the playoffs. And while they still look fantastic, don't get me wrong, what made them special was their defense. One of the best defenses in the league. They were phenomenal on the defensive side of the ball. Paolo and Franz were great at driving to the basket and scoring in the paint. But I think when it came down to the playoffs, especially in that first round against Boston, Boston was able to shrink that floor a little bit. And one of the big glaring weaknesses that was obvious with the Orlando Magic throughout the entire season, but especially in the playoffs, was shooting. Desmond Bane can bring a lot of shooting to this team. In the last 4 seasons, Desmond Bane averaged 23 points, 5 assists, a steal, 5 rebounds on 40% from 3 on at least 8 3-point attempts a game. Not only is that excellent shooting, but that's also we've seen Desmond Bane during stretches in Memphis when Ja wasn't playing, and also with Ja on the floor, we've seen him be and take on the role of a primary ball handler, primary playmaker, and I think he can bring some of that to this team, but doesn't need to do it all the time because Franz and Paolo are still good at that as well. Bane is great defensively, so it's not like they're taking away from their defensive identity. I think he'll add to it. And also, Desmond Bane isn't too far out of their timeline. He's only 26 years old. If anything, call me crazy, he can get better. I think the role he had in Memphis will translate well to his time in Orlando. Like I said, being the guy who can play off the ball while Ja has the ball, like he probably will a lot with Franz and Paolo running the offense and moving around off screens, pin downs, flares, but also running pick and roll himself. A pick and roll with either Franz or Paolo as the roller and Desmond Bane as the ball handler, that can create a lot of good looks for this Orlando Magic team. But going back to the overpay, once again, I'm standing on that. I don't think it was an overpay. Orlando wanted him there. And I think they made it apparent and clear to him that they wanted him there, because immediately after the trade, I want to say a day or two after the trade, a video is going viral of Desmond Bane just checking out facilities saying, oh, Memphis facility doesn't look like this. Dapping up the head coach during his press conference. He was just basically saying how welcome he felt and how nice the facilities look in Orlando. Orlando wanted Desmond Bane, and I think they're going to do the best they can to make him feel welcome there, not only as a person but as a player. It's really not lost on me that they were able to add what I'm going to call another release valve guy, a guy who they can pass the ball to, say potentially go get us the bucket or at least bring the ball up the floor, another ball handler that's not likely to get super overwhelmed by defensive pressure and be able to handle pressure and take some of the pressure off Franz and Paolo. But it's not lost to me that guy that they got, because there's a lot of guys in the league who honestly they could have went and got for basically 4 first-round picks, a swap, and some couple of contracts, which is essentially what they did. There's a lot of guys who they could have went out and gotten to fit that role, but I don't think those guys also would have been a defensive plus. A lot of those guys that fit that role is the guy who's the guard who's good on offense, who can play on ball, play off ball, shoot a little bit. That guard is usually not good on defense. Desmond Bane's not going to disrupt their defensive identity. Now, I do still have some questions about this team. Do they make another move to get a true point guard, or are they trusting Paolo, Franz, and Bane to handle most of the playmaking and ball handling responsibilities? Is Bane's shooting going to be enough? I just told you he's a 40% from 3 guy on 8 attempts, but is that enough when honestly most of the team is full of non-shooters? Can Paolo, can Franz become better shooters this offseason? That's just something we'll have to wait and see. And how much time will we see at Bane at PG if they don't go out and get another playmaker? But overall, I think this was a fantastic move for the Orlando Magic, and I'm really excited to see how this looks this coming season. All right, now switching gears to the Kevin Durant trade. This was a trade that I'm gonna be keeping it being. I like it now, but I had to think about it. I had to really think about it because I don't know, for some reason it didn't, to me, hit me as much as when Kevin Durant went to the Nets, or when Kevin Durant got traded to the Suns. Maybe that's because, I mean, at this point Kevin Durant's bounced around a decent amount, or for whatever reason it just didn't excite me, but I still think it's a great trade. Kevin Durant was traded to the Houston Rockets for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 pick in the 2025 draft, and 5 second-round picks. Keep in mind, Kevin Durant had all the leverage in this trade. He's coming up on the end of his contract. Basically, no team was going to sign for him if they didn't have assurance that he was going to extend and sign a contract and extend there and stay there. He gave his list of teams that he wanted to be traded to and basically handpicked the Rockets. Like I said, at first I wasn't excited for this trade. And then I remembered who the Rockets were. I remember that the Rockets won 52 games last year. I remember that Rockets were second in the West last year and had the 4th best record in the NBA. The Rockets hung their hat on the defensive side of the ball last year. And like the Orlando Magic, they were one of the best defenses in the NBA. I remember the game that stood out in early April, where Steph only scored 3 points and 1 for 10 from the field. I think for a lot of people, now granted, April is really late in the season for a lot of people to be waking up to how good the Rockets defense was. But I think specifically that game opened up a lot of people's eyes to be like, oh, the Rockets are tough and could do some damage and make some noise in the playoffs. Now, unfortunately, that didn't happen, but I think that was a sentiment going in after that game. I think that was a sentiment among most fans after that game. Ironically enough, in the playoffs, they ran into the Golden State Warriors, and to me, I think they realized that they needed someone who they could give the ball to and who they could rely on scoring consistently. I think in theory they thought was Jalen Green or Sengun, but Jalen Green, while still young and only in his 4th year, and we'll talk about him a little bit, I'm excited for his future. Well, I don't know if I'm necessarily excited for his future in Phoenix, but I'm just excited for his future in general. But so between him and I think Alperen Sengun, that was who they were banking on, I think, a lot of their offense to come from. And I just think in the playoffs, yes, it went to 7, but one of the 2 glaring things that stood out to me was how the Warriors were able to not fully shut down Alperen Sengun, but make things a lot more difficult for him. The Rockets just really realized they needed some offense. And who better to get than Kevin Durant if you just need some offense? To me, he addresses their issues. He is a scorer. He's consistently been over 50% from the field and over 40% from 3. And honestly would have been 50-40-90 if it wasn't for his free throws in the last 3 seasons. He's been a guy who shot over 50% from the field for, I want to say, the last at least 10 plus years. I looked at it earlier, but I didn't write it down. He's been 40% from 3 for most of his career, if not right at 40. But the thing that I think is going to be the most impactful for them, or maybe not the most, but one of the things that's going to be the most impactful for them is they don't have to they can, but they don't have to change a ton of their offense or do anything drastic to make Kevin Durant fit. Kevin Durant is a bucket getter. He can shoot the catch and shoot. He can create off the dribble. You can run pin downs for him. You can run flares for him. You can post him up. You can get him in the high post. He can score out of the corner. He can score out of the top of the key. He can score on the wing. He can score anywhere on the court, and he'll be a weapon anywhere on the court. Kevin Durant to the Rockets also is an opportunity for him to play small forward again. He's played a ton of power forward in his last couple of years in the league. I'm excited to see him back at the 3. I think that has the opportunity, honestly, to make the team that he's on feel a lot bigger if you have Kevin Durant at the 3 versus Kevin Durant in the 4, because you can still run Torrey Eason and Sengun in the front court alongside of him. And speaking of Torrey Eason and speaking of some of those other guys, I'm really excited for the likes of Torrey Eason, but especially Jabari Smith Jr. to learn from Kevin Durant. We saw some clips of Kevin Durant and Jabari working out, I want to say in the summer of 2024, but them two being teammates, I think will do a lot for Jabari Smith's growth as a scorer. I'm a shameless Jabari Smith Jr. fan. I've been a fan of him ever since I was introduced to, I think the first time I really paid attention to him and saw him play is in his Summer League debut. I watched a ton of him in Summer League, and I've been a fan of him ever since. I like his game a lot. And he's still young, he's still developing, he's still learning, but the flashes are there, and I hope he can pick up a lot of things from KD. News also broke earlier today that they were able to keep Fred. He signed a 2-year deal there, so he's going to be, in my opinion, a steady point guard for them. Not a guy who, to me, has to be a table setter, playmaker, point guard. That's not what we're asking from Fred, but he's going to play some solid defense. He's going to be able to score a little bit, and he's going to make the right reads. He's going to get the guys the ball who need to get the ball, and in this case, that guy is Kevin Durant. I'm excited to see Kevin Durant not be the best defender on his team. I think there were a lot of lineups on that Suns team where Kevin Durant, unfortunately, was literally the best defender on the floor. Now he's not going to be. And I know Kevin Durant, yes, he's 37. He's not the defender he once was when he was with the Golden State Warriors, but I think he can play a similar role to what he played in the Golden State Warriors, meaning he has a good defense around him and he can just play good help side. He's still 7 feet tall. He still can, get off the floor and deter a couple of shots at the rim and make things difficult for the man that he's guarding. I know there's going to be some injury concerns with KD, understandably, throughout especially the last 5-6 years of his career. If you look back, he's missed significant chunks almost every season. But in the last 2 seasons, he's played 75 and 62 games, if that makes you feel any reassurance as a Rockets fan. And also, in theory, he won't have to carry as much as the load. And while I think he'll still be the dynamic scorer that he is, especially in the regular season, my hope is he doesn't have to go out and drop 30 every night for the Rockets to win games. Honestly, he shouldn't have to drop 30 every night for the Rockets to win games, because they didn't have that last year. Their defense won them games last year, and I think their defense is going to continue to do that this year, just with the added scoring of KD. And then the last thing for the Rockets before we quickly talk about the Suns side of this, because they went, yes, I know it's in 7 games, but because they went out in the first round, I feel like I can't immediately say adding Kevin Durant makes them contenders. But in the same breath, they did still, yes, he's 37, but he's still Kevin Durant. He's still one of the best scorers in this league. And they were the 2 seed for a reason. They did win 50 games. This definitely makes them significantly better. So I think at least puts them in the conversation. I can't say for certain. I can't say anything for certain. It's June. We'll have to see how the season plays out. But I think it makes them a lot closer. And then honestly, last but definitely not least, for the Suns, first and foremost, I just feel bad for Devin Booker a little bit. Definitely feel bad for Devin Booker a little bit. First part of his career was honestly really bad on some really bad teams with, I think, like 4 or 5 coaches in his first 5-6 years. Then they go 8-0 in the bubble, finals run the next year, 2 second-round exits, and then first-round exit, and then this year they don't even make the playoffs. Honestly, it almost feels like the Suns are, depending on what they do with these picks, it almost feels like the Suns are entering another retool rebuild, which sounds crazy. Maybe if it's only going to be a year or 2, maybe he sticks around. I have no idea what Devin Booker is going to do this year. Does he stay, see this through, become a Sun for life? I wouldn't be mad if he decides to leave and says y'all doing too much and this hasn't worked out. I'm excited to see Jalen Green in a new city. I know he hasn't exactly been what I'll say Rockets fans wanted him to be, but I also try to keep in mind that he's 22 years old and going in his 5th year. Yes, he was the 2nd pick, and yes, you have higher expectations for the 2nd pick of the draft, but some guys blossom later than others. He's not bad, he's just not consistent, and I hope maybe a new city will just help him with that consistency in his game. But in the same breath, I'm not sure what the backcourt of Jalen Green, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Dillon Brooks looks like, especially for his development and the amount of playing time he can get. I'm curious to see how Dillon Brooks fits in all this. Yes, his defense is fantastic, but we also know him as a guy who can sometimes take too many shots or take some ill-advised shots. Does that take a, like, how does that fit alongside Devin Booker and Jalen Green? And lastly, the Suns get the 10th pick in the draft from this. Like I said earlier, I'm recording this on draft night. The Sixers pick just came in. I'm waiting to hear what it's going to be. Do the Suns make the pick? Do they move it? Do they pick for somebody else that didn't make that trade once they got the player? That we'll just have to wait and see. I'll say in conclusion, I'm excited for the teams who got the player. I like Desmond Bane to Orlando. I like Kevin Durant to the Rockets. And I'm curious to see what the teams that got the assets are going to do. What's in the future for Memphis and what's in the future for Devin Booker and the Suns. If you made it this far, appreciate you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. I'm out. Peace.